expect to be getting invited to Champions, so just to be here is just an honour. Thank you.
And maybe this time you do have a chance of winning. Anything can happen on this show, so good luck.
In the summer of 2018, a shy teenage girl stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. But the moment Courtney Hadwin opened her mouth, jaws hit the floor. It wasn't just a performance, it was a possession. Her wild, electrifying rendition of Otis Redding's Hard to Handle turned her from a nervous schoolgirl into a rock and roll firestorm. Simon Cowell slammed the golden buzzer like it owed him money, and the internet exploded. Millions watched her audition on repeat, calling her the reincarnation of Janis Joplin. She went from unknown to unforgettable in less than 60 seconds. But behind the spotlight and standing ovation was a devastating truth no one saw coming. Because while the world celebrated her gift, Courtney was quietly falling apart. Fame had found her, but peace hadn't. And as quickly as she rose, she seemed to disappear. What happened to the girl with the voice that stopped time? The answer, folks, is more heartbreaking than anyone imagined. And we're just getting started. Before the world knew her as the rock goddess of AGT, Courtney Hadwin was just a painfully shy girl from Hartlepool, a quiet town in northeast England. At school, she barely spoke, not because she had nothing to say, but because she never felt heard. Classmates mocked her quirks. Teachers mistook her silence for weakness, and loneliness became her daily routine. She once admitted that she used to sing in the corner of her room just to feel like someone was listening. Her parents noticed that the only time she truly lit up was when music played, especially the gritty soul of legends like Janis Joplin and James Brown. Imagine that, a soft-spoken girl with an explosive inner soundtrack. But here's the twist. The very thing that made her different was also what saved her. At age 12, she started singing at small gigs, slowly turning whispers of doubt into roars of applause. Yet, even as the crowds grew, Courtney still carried the scars of every hallway laugh and classroom insult. And sadly, that early pain would follow her into the spotlight in ways no one could have predicted. When Courtney hit the AGT stage, it wasn't just another audition. It was a cultural detonation. Viewers called her a time traveler, trapped in the body of a 14-year-old. Her raspy voice, wild dance moves, and raw emotion defied every expectation. Suddenly, she was trending worldwide, gracing headlines from Los Angeles to London. Simon Cowell's golden buzzer wasn't just applause. It was a fast pass to instant fame. But as the confetti fell, few noticed the panic in her eyes. Behind the scenes, Courtney battled intense anxiety. She hated interviews, struggled with social media pressure, and dreaded live performances despite how fearless she looked. Producers and press painted her as the quirky rock prodigy, but no one asked if she was okay carrying that weight. Even her own fans, in their excitement, unknowingly pressured her to stay weird and bring the fire every single time. What started as a dream began feeling like a cage. And while her voice soared, her spirit quietly cracked. Fame may have launched her, but it also left her more exposed than ever before. And unfortunately, the worst was still ahead. After the AGT cameras stopped rolling, most people expected Courtney Hadwin to skyrocket. Record deals, sold-out tours, magazine covers. But instead, something strange happened. Silence. There was no shiny label announcement, no debut album hype. Just a void. Fans were confused, industry insiders were baffled, and Courtney? She was left stranded in the spotlight with no map. Whispers circled that she turned down major contracts to keep creative control. A bold move, but one that came with a heavy price. Without a label machine backing her, Courtney had to fend for herself in an industry that doesn't wait around. She released a few singles, dabbled in YouTube, and even dropped an EP, but none of it captured the wildfire energy of her AGT debut. Interviews revealed a young artist trying to stay true to her voice, even as the world tried to remix her identity. She didn't want to be molded, marketed, or manufactured. And that bravery, ironically, made her a harder sell in a pop-driven industry. The girl who shocked the world had become a cautionary tale of what happens when talent isn't wrapped in industry polish. But Courtney's story wasn't over. In fact, it was about to take an even darker turn. Just when the world expected her to explode into superstardom, Courtney Hadwin seemed to vanish. Months passed without updates, new music, or public appearances. Her social media went eerily quiet, and fans flooded comment sections with the same haunting question: is she okay? YouTube videos speculated wildly. Some claimed she was ill, others whispered about depression, and a few even feared the worst. For a while, Courtney's silence spoke louder than her voice ever had. When she did resurface, it was in fragments, a raw song upload here, a cryptic Instagram post there, but never the full force comeback fans hoped for. And each time she pulled back again, the worry deepened. Some blamed the industry for failing her. Others pointed to the harsh pressure of overnight fame. But one thing was clear: Courtney Hadwin, the teenage powerhouse who once commanded a global. As Courtney drifted from the limelight, the music industry's dirty laundry began to show. Sources close to her team hinted that record labels loved her talent, but not her terms. Executives reportedly wanted to polish her raw sound, smooth out her raspy edge, and push her into a more commercial, cookie-cutter image. In other words, be less Joplin, more jukebox. Courtney, true to form, refused. She didn't want to sing bubblegum pop or wear glittery dresses for viral choreography. And that resistance cost her. Deals were delayed. Opportunities disappeared. One rep allegedly told her team, "She's amazing, but she's not marketable." Ouch. While other AGT alumni got fast-tracked into stardom, Courtney was labeled difficult, not for bad behavior, but for wanting to stay authentic. Ironically, the very thing that made her a sensation, her uniqueness, became her biggest obstacle. She was too bold to be boxed, too different to be packaged. And in an industry obsessed with control, that made her a threat, not a priority. Instead of pushing her forward, they left her behind. And the silence that followed was deafening. As the spotlight dimmed, Courtney Hadwin wasn't just fighting to stay in the industry. She was fighting to stay herself. In a rare emotional post, she hinted at the inner turmoil beneath her quiet exterior, admitting, "I almost gave it all up." The pressure to perform, to please, to be a teenage rock star 24/7 had pushed her to the edge. Fans who followed closely noticed the shift. Her lyrics turned more introspective, her tone more raw, her eyes less wild and more weary. Gone was the girl who danced like she was channeling a 60s soul legend. In her place was a young woman confronting anxiety, fear of failure, and the crushing weight of expectation. She turned to platforms like Patreon to connect directly with fans, a move that gave her control, but also revealed the financial fragility of staying independent. One follower said, "It feels like we're supporting her just so she can survive." That wasn't hyperbole, it was heartbreak. Courtney wasn't chasing fame anymore. She was chasing freedom, from labels, from pressure, from the role she never asked to play. And in that struggle, we saw a different kind of strength. But her battle was far from over. While the mainstream music world largely moved on, Courtney Hadwin didn't give up. She recalibrated. With no big label or production team, she began releasing music on her own terms. Gone were the flashy covers and AGT-style theatrics. In their place came stripped-down performances, raw vocals, and lyrics that cut deeper than ever. Songs like Breakable and That Girl Don't Live Here weren't just tracks, they were diary entries set to music. The visuals? Minimal. The emotion? Maximum. Every note seemed to say, "This is me now. Take it or leave it." And slowly, her core fan base, the ones who saw beyond the glitter and into the grit, rallied around her. They didn't care about Billboard charts or Spotify algorithms. They just wanted her to heal, to create, to be. While other young stars burned out or sold out, Courtney carved a lane that was hers alone. Still unsigned, still unapologetic, she became a quiet symbol of artistic resistance. Her comeback didn't make headlines, but it made a statement. Courtney Hadwin wasn't trying to reclaim the spotlight. She was learning how to live without needing it. Courtney Hadwin's journey isn't just a personal struggle. It's a brutal case study in what happens when a child goes viral without a safety net. At just 14, she was thrust into a world that eats adult performers alive, let alone a kid still trying to survive high school. The public saw her talent, but overlooked the trauma. One minute she was bullied in school. The next she was a global sensation, expected to deliver greatness on demand. And when she didn't, the silence was met with criticism, not compassion. Behind the applause was exhaustion. Behind the fame was fear. She once hinted that being famous felt lonelier than being bullied. A heartbreaking confession that speaks volumes. Courtney's story reflects a larger problem. We celebrate young stars without ever protecting them from the cost of being celebrated. She was never reckless, never scandalous. She just didn't want to be a product. And for that, the industry turned its back. Fame gave her a stage, but it also gave her anxiety, identity issues, and the burden of being everyone's expectation. In the end, the real tragedy wasn't her talent being overlooked. It was her well-being being ignored. Courtney Hadwin's story may read like a tragedy, but it's far more complex and far more human. She didn't fall off, she stepped back. She didn't lose her voice, she chose to protect it. And while the world moved on to the next viral sensation, Courtney was quietly rebuilding. Not a career, but a life. One rooted in self-worth, not social metrics. One defined by her choices, not public demand. Yes, she was failed by an industry that profits off talent, but rarely invests in mental health. And yes, she vanished from the fame machine that made her, but not because she couldn't handle the pressure, but because she refused to be crushed by it. Today, Courtney may not be headlining arenas or dominating charts, but she's created something just as powerful. A space where she can be unapologetically herself. In a world obsessed with fast fame, she chose the slow road to peace. That's not a fall, that's survival. And if you're still listening to her music, still rooting for her, you're not alone. Because while her star may have dimmed in the headlines, for those who truly saw her, Courtney Hadwin still burns bright.